Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Candy Coated Conversations with girl Candace here. So, welcome. Step on in.
Hey, hey, Candy.
Hey Coco. Welcome. We'll just give a couple minutes. Anyone that wants to drift on through, give them a minute. That was a good show you had. I loved it. And
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing what actually happens to Mr. Jonathan because, yeah,
Me
that
too.
wild incident. And honestly, he could be a really nice guy. He could be a good guy. I don't know why my mind is telling me that exactly what we thought about him. Like, I think he probably does like black women. He just, got caught up, liking who liked him, and look how it turned out. Who knows?
I love your background.
Thank you. I'm gonna give you the
That's
hookup.
dope.
We get out here. Let's see who's over here. I see someone here. Hey Babs, come on up. Let me drop you a link, okay? Which I gave you the link, but let me come and put it over here in the chat.
Did you put the link in the other chat that hit us?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. I had put mine in there, but I don't know if anybody saw it. It was earlier too.
There we go. Okay, there's that link. I don't know what happened, or if you can make it.
Oh, okay. We got a couple more people in here. I see some comments.
No, that's Babs.
Oh,
Hopefully
okay.
here she is. There we go. There, that link worked. I had somebody else say that the link wasn't working for them. So I'm just
Yep.
giving a couple seconds. And
I
as
was
you
like, oh, I can't even come up. At first, it
yeah,
wouldn't even let me even put in a comment to you.
okay.
Oh, wow. And then
Sometimes
it finally popped up, for the comments. But at first, it wasn't even there.
okay.
So,
I
what is
think,
it? Candy, what
I
we
think,
Don't
I
nobody
think,
like us tonight?
huh?
I say, don't nobody like us tonight? What's going on?
Honey, I have no idea, but look, the conversation goes on,
That's
regardless of
right. We just had a whole show by ourselves and did good.
uh-huh.
Absolutely great. Yeah.
Now, as you can see by the title, and I'll let you know, Coco, and I'll allow you to speak for yourself, Pam, aka Babs. You know,
Okay.
she's not the only one. I was contacted.
Yeah, I'm a mute for 1 minute. I gotta take this two pills for my
Okay,
medicine. Okay.
yes, go ahead. But yeah, I got contacted by Deborah Briscoe, over from the Banger Show, who stated that, on Friday that she lost her mother. And the thing of it is, she had already sent me a message and let me know that she was kind of having a hard time with things. And, she enjoyed listening to us over there. And so she was already having a hard time. But then, Friday, her mother suddenly passes away. So,
Oh my
she
God.
and I did give her a call and everything just to check on her, see how she was doing. Um, but yeah, so it was just, and then Pam will let you know what's going on with her. She hit me up today, and she's taken some losses today as well. So I was like,
Yeah.
kind of let me know, wow, we really need to, I already knew, and I'm sure you guys have heard of it too, that around the holiday times, for some reason or another, lots of things happen. People
Right.
commit suicide. People, there's suicides. There's accidents. It seems like for some reason or another, there are certain people and individuals, loved ones that don't make it to the holidays or through to the next year, or
Right.
taken from us shortly after the new year. You know what I'm saying? So I said, this is going to be the perfect time for us to have a show, talking about grief, and how to deal with grief, steps to grief, and how to deal with grieving. And, even though it may not be you, do you know how to help a loved one or a friend through the grieving process. So I said, why don't we just talk about that, and put a little show out about that. So Pam, do you want to let Coco know, what happened with you today?
Yeah. I think you know, Coco, I had just got out the hospital, right? With my lupus and stressing is the number one thing that can give you a flare up. But anyway,
Right.
I had a doctor's appointment today and I got a call from my cousin in Mississippi to tell me that our cousin died, which was her sister, sudden death.
Oh
She
my
hadn't been sick or
God.
nothing. And then it was probably like 15 minutes later, I got a call from my cousin in Illinois to tell me that my little cousin, he was 23, had just passed away suddenly.
Oh
Within
my
15
God.
minutes, I lost two peoples
That's crazy.
that I'm very close to.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And
Yeah,
I
so
already had a hard time with the holidays ever since I lost my son, but it's nothing I would talk about on this part
yeah.
right here. But
Right.
and people want to tell you when it comes to losing your kids or your mother, that's a whole different ball game right there. I mean, I can't even explain to y'all the feeling of losing a child. I mean, and I don't think I would ever get over it. Nobody can say nothing to me that's going to make me feel better. And it's not that you don't want to feel better, but that's just a pain that I see it every single day of my life. It's like I play a movie in my head. And
Hmm.
Dr. Phil said I got PTO, or whatever you call it, from his
PTS.
death.
From
hmm They say anytime keep seeing something over and over, because I told the doctor, why do I keep seeing this over and over in my head like this? And then they broke it down to me because I had never experienced anything like this before.
hmm
Mm.
So
Have you
I
gone through
don't know
any
how to
type of
deal with it. I
have you
just
done
don't.
have you gone through any type of grief counseling?
I did. And for me, I'm not saying this for everybody. I could have just went and stand in the middle of the street and talked to anybody and got the same results because it didn't do nothing. They listen to you explaining to them how you feeling. Like I tell them, I just feel like I don't want to go on no more.
hmm
Yeah.
It's like I don't have no reason to live. And I was
They
told
didn't
I was being selfish.
they
So
didn't
no, you're not the person I need to talk to. So I
they
tried
didn't
to
offer
warn
you any
people.
type of coping mechanisms?
Nope.
Wow.
It was
Go ahead.
I asked you who you spoke with. Was it a person of color?
two was and one wasn't.
Okay.
Mm.
Because I know that a lot of times I've heard a lot of black people who've expressed wanting to get into counseling and things of that nature kind of feel like
hmm
they can't relate to someone, you know. I mean, it takes a lot for, I think it's just in recent years that black people as a whole are more open with the thought of counseling and things of that nature anyways. But I've heard that it's, depending on if you really get someone good or not, that
Right.
it's hard for black people to relate to talking about our grief and pain to a non-black person. They, yeah, I mean, as a whole, most people I hear say that they just don't think that the person can relate to them or can relate to the things that they could be going through, even if it's not even death or a grieving situation. They just kind of feel like I
I
kind
think
of need.
I probably really need to talk to a therapist that have kids. I think that's where it all go wrong. But if they train, you would think it would matter.
Mhm.
Right.
But I can tell you the difference between the blacks and the white one because the white one was like really, I don't care. I mean, he
Mm.
didn't say that, but he might as well said that. Like
Right.
just
Gotcha.
get over it and move on. You can't
Mhm.
just get over that. But then I heard some people that went to counseling and it was great.
Yeah.
So
Well,
give me
that
that
was
person name.
That was
so I can talk to that person.
that's the reason why I asked, because I know my mom, she had a hard time dealing with her mom's death, my grandmother,
Hmm.
and she had to seek out grief counseling, and it worked tremendously for her. So that's
I think
why
it
I had
just
asked.
depends on who you get.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so far, I haven't found that person yet. And I think when I do, I'm a just know automatically. I'm going to know. But the one that three people recommended me to, and when I went to call to make an appointment, that person had died. I was like,
Oh
I
wow.
just don't have no kind of luck. So that was that. And nobody could recommend me, nobody else. Because most black people don't even go and seek counseling or nothing like that. So
Yeah. Okay,
I
so
don't
let's
know.
get into some of the details here of our topic tonight. So the first thing is, what are grief and loss? So it states grief is a natural emotional response to the loss of someone close, such as a family member or friend. Grief can also occur after a serious illness, a divorce, or other significant losses. Grief often involves intense sadness and sometimes feelings of shock and numbness, or even denial and anger. For most people, the intensity of grief eases over time and the episodes of grief become less frequent. Grief is a process or journey that affects everyone differently. It can be exhausting and emotionally draining. This can make it hard to do simple things or even leave the house. Some people cope by becoming more active. Grief has no set pattern. It is expressed differently across different cultures. Some people like to be expressive in public with their emotions, while others like to keep their feelings private. Most people find that grief lessens with time. A person who loses a loved one may always carry sadness and miss the person who has died, but they are able to find meaning and experience pleasure again. Some people even find new wisdom and strength after experiences of loss. Now, so I'll just take a pause there.
I fit into
Oh,
the category of holding it in and not really talking about it.
oh,
And that was because some things that was said. It's like people really don't want to hear about it, like, well, you shouldn't talk about it. Or like Mother's Day, but you're not no mother. I'm still a mother,
of course. And you've
you
told us
know,
that story before, and that really was like a deplorable thing to tell someone. And
and
here's
that hurted so
I
bad, Kim. I can't even explain to you how much that hurted.
I I can't even imagine someone. I can't imagine someone even having the gall to even say that to a woman who has lost her child. That why you don't get to experience Mother's Day because you're not a mother anymore. Um,
Hmm.
Inspired Vibe said, I'm glad I caught this live. I lost my mom 15 years ago and my dad in June of this year. So sorry for your loss. I really am. You know, I can honestly say, you guys, there have been some relatives that have passed away, but and my birth father passed away um in 98. But, and I hate to say a but, I did grieve for him, but the sad about that for me was, in dealing with the grief, I was actually grieving the relationship that I felt I never got to have with him. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, but that's
because
Oh
still
wow.
grieving though, you
it,
know.
it still was grief. Yes, it was
Hmm.
grief, but I grieve the relationship that I just would never get to have with him because, um, I had just basically had my daughter. So, it seemed like he was making little changes because you guys ever notice how as grandparents, hey Tamika, you know how as grandparents, you always see grandparents being better parents than what they were. And that truly was my dad. I've talked on Bang Show, and told you guys a little bit about my crazy dad, God rest his soul. But he was just like he was really into meeting my daughter and being a grandfather, and he was very excited about her and things like that. And then, he had that sudden heart attack that I was telling you guys about. So it's like, even the things that he really wasn't for me as a father, we never kind of got a chance to even talk about that and rectify things, like, okay, yes, you really weren't here in my childhood. I was raised by my mother and my stepfather in the house, and things like that. So, but, so those were the grieving feelings that I was having. But it wasn't as if I was grieving like my father who's been with me every step of the way. You guys understand what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's different.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, Candy,
Yeah,
you didn't get no closure still.
I didn't.
No. And that's what's making it hard for you because you didn't get that closure.
Yeah,
Because you didn't really get to have that deep down talk
we didn't, and
that you
I didn't
probably wanted.
the whys. Like, why were you like this? Why
Hmm.
love to know what made you such a womanizer. Do you really hate women the way that you treat women? There were a lot of things. Like, I really wanted to tell him, at some point, you're really the reason I don't trust men. You know what I mean? And so there was like a plethora of things that I would never get to, you know, resolve for myself.
I
So
can say the same thing for my father too, you know.
yeah,
And that's why I always set my guard up when it came to a male, you know.
right.
But I did get to tell him everything I thought about him.
Hmm.
And I did get an apology out of him before he passed away.
And
And that
I'm
was
sure
like
good.
5,000 pounds lifted off my shoulders, you know. Because I had a lot of anger towards him. A lot. But after I told him how I felt and, you know, he finally apologized, that changed everything. And then he died like 2 days after that.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
But
Yeah.
at least you had your moment you know, to kind of
Hmm.
resolve some things with him. So now let's go to this. Are there different types of grief and loss? Grief is usually described in relation. Here, one second. Hey, Tamika, welcome to the stage.
Welcome to the
Hey,
stage.
Hi,
ladies.
Tamika.
How's
Good,
everyone doing?
good.
Pretty good.
So, I created this show tonight, Tamika, because Babs had reached out to me, and today she lost two relatives, like literally within 15 minutes of each other.
I'm
So,
so sorry.
yes,
Yes, thank you. In two different states, too.
different states. And then we have another lady over in the Banger crew, Deborah Briscoe, who, her Friday was Banger's birthday, but she lost her mother last Friday. So she hit me
Um,
last night. So I was just like, oh my God, so many people I'm coming encounter with are experiencing grief. And then, as I was saying, you know what, Tamika, you're a 911 operator. I, I've never asked you, how long have you been a 911 operator?
for 6 years, going on 7.
Okay, so going on 7 years, I'm going to ask you personally because they say this. Hey, Angela McGrady, welcome, welcome, welcome. You being a 911 operator, do you find that this time of year there's like a lot of deaths and incidents, there's suicides and things like that? Have you noticed that pattern just in your field of work?
Our hectic season is the summertime, like spring going into the summer.
Hmm.
So that's where like all the rises comes from. I think around this time, no, it's no. I feel like this is our downtime.
Really? Where people kind
Yeah,
of
it's
a little bit. Okay.
yeah,
Can I
it's
ask
more
you a
fires than
question?
anything. Yes.
Do it mess with your mental, though, getting all these 911 calls? Do it bother you after you
Yes,
off
it
from work?
actually do. I think that that's what caused my like extreme anxiety because at first I really didn't have anxiety. I really wasn't stuttering like as much, but that comes with having chronic anxiety. So, yeah, all of that came with. my job profession. Like it was just stress because stress wasn't coming from at home. It was actually coming from work. So you
Yeah.
just gotta balance the few. Like, like people goes to like counselors or like psychiatrists. I'm not doing all of that. I could just talk in the mirror like this what you gotta do or this what you got to do.
See,
But
Candy, that's what I was saying. Remember when I was saying I can just talk to anybody from,
Yeah.
what I experienced with counselors, going to therapy. I can just walk up to the wall and talk to the wall. Hey, what's up? I'm gonna get more out of talking to that wall than I did out of them.
yeah,
If
because
I
you
ain't
know
doing
your
nothing but hitting the
situation
wall.
and you know your problem and you know how to get to your problem more than anyone else. And at least that's my intake of it. Now, I mean, I do have like coworkers that goes like weekly and like daily. I'm not about to do that. That's just taking more time out of mine. Like, no, I mean, I could just deal with it.
But that's showing your strength. But I definitely can imagine in your field of work, people needing outside resources just to deal with the things that you guys are hit with on a daily basis. Because I can imagine being on the phone. Like literally, I can imagine being on the phone and something just dire is happening where you feel like, and you guys have to stay in control. You have to be able to lead someone over the phone on the right things to do
Yeah,
given moment. So I can imagine that just being very mentally draining. And then sometimes you feeling grief and loss for people you really don't even know, but perhaps weren't able to help in a situation where you wish you had have been able to assist, because that's what
yeah.
people are calling you
Yeah,
for.
I would get too emotional. I
Yeah,
don't think I could handle that kind of job, especially
we
when
don't
it came
know.
to little kids.
Right,
Mm-mm.
right. And
Yeah.
here. She's a nurse in the nursing profession, so I can imagine she feels that way sometimes, depending on the situation as well. Hey, Gold Digger. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. You guys hop on
That's
up.
true, Candy, because I had a friend and she worked in intensive care. It,
Mm-hmm.
it got so bad and she was seeing death so much. She just had to quit the job. She couldn't take it no more. She did it for like 7.5 years. And it was just beating her down. She said every day, all she's seeing is somebody passing away. So she had to let the job go.
Yeah, I
I
can
have a
understand.
question for Tamika.
Yes, Coco.
How do you how do you manage to leave the job at the job and not take that home with you?
Well, that's easy. Well, I mean, that's mainly how like I found YouTube. Like that's when like I found the Banger team. Like you just have to shift your attention to like like something else. Like I'm very headstrong because my grandfather raised me, so it's like I have that mentality. Whereas once I leave the job, unless it's something that irks me, which is mainly my coworkers, it's not the job, it's the damn coworkers, if you ask me, because I just can't stand people that should have common sense and they don't have common sense. That just
Hmm.
irritates me. So, and then it's like I'm the youngest one out of the whole team. So you have all of these old people that's just stuck in their ways. So I don't know. Like when I leave a job, I don't think about the job because the people just irritates me. It's not the phone calls or it's not, like the job within itself. It's the people. Like, why would you tell somebody that on the recorded line? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's just the people to me. So, Coco, I don't know whether
Got
I
you.
answered that
You did.
question,
You did.
but I just like I don't know, like I don't know. I just be building up like a wall, and when that wall is like built up, I don't even bother that wall. I don't go to it. I don't look like okay. I did my 8 and skate. I like if literally that is
Like
me.
I'm
I do
out.
my 8 and skate. No, I
Got
And
can't
one
stay
thing good
over.
about it is you don't have to see them either. You're not seeing it actually taking
Yes.
place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but then I can't really say that because it's your imagination. Like if you have someone on the phone saying, like I'm bleeding to death or,
Yeah.
stuff like that, but then you have that other person that is by him that can't stop the blood, but you know how to stop the blood, but you can't be there. Like that's stressful too. So it's just like within the imagination also. Like no, you're not there, but your mind is there, you know?
Yeah, but I would be too emotional to do a job like that because my heart, I wear it on
Yeah.
my sleeves when it comes to something like that. But I
Yeah,
just
that's how I
can't
used to be.
imagine being a
Now,
paramedic and some of the things they had to roll up on.
yeah.
I couldn't be
It
a
could be
paramedic either.
stressful only if you make it stressful. That's what I would say. Like if you don't have tough skin, then no, it's not the job for you. But if you got tough skin, then you should be good. Like you got that heart interior. This is where I get my money at. When I go home, that's where I get, my pleasure at. So I don't
Hmm.
get my pleasure at work. So it's just like, whatever. I'm just dealing with y'all for 8 hours and that's it.
And I can imagine that when you feel like you've been properly trained, which I know a lot of scenarios, you're definitely not going to know how to put that training and implement it until it happens. But if you feel like you have the basics, to deal with whatever calls come your way, that gives you some confidence that you know how to properly handle the call.
Exactly.
What
Yes.
what
Yes.
what type of
Yes.
classes do you have to take to be a 911 dispatch? What do it
It's just
entail?
really it's just really your 2 week training, but like you get training once a month. So like every month is a different training topic every month. So like once you get the job, it just doesn't stop. You just got to keep on going through training because there's so much going on in the outside world. And you have that one phone call that's going to save that next person's life.
So if you
So,
get stuck, is there somebody there to help you? Like if it's something to come up that you ain't
yes,
never had to deal with, is there
yes.
somebody there to help you out? I would just be scared that I'm gonna do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing.
I mean, you have your resources, like, like once like they are like explaining the situation. Well, I'm always placing a call on hold and grab my supervisor and be like, look, this right here. But they call me like the crazy one in the company, so I just be like, oh, but look, I can't do it right now. I'm going through a panic attack in 2.5 seconds. Can you please take over this phone call? And then they be like, okay, okay, okay,
Oh,
okay,
okay. Well,
like,
that's great
all
that you
right.
can do that. I didn't know if y'all can do that or not. So that's great that you can.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
See, I
Yes.
would be
Yes.
you. I'd be like, oh man, come here, hurry up.
Yeah. I'm always calling my supervisor. She be like, what is it now, young buck? What is it now? Like, but that's just the way I am. I just be like, nope. I know my breaking point. Like at first, I just thought that I got this tough like exterior, so I well, I guess like I was trying to like prove myself, but then I'm just like, oh no, when you need help you better ask for it. So I just be asking for help
Right.
out of nowhere.
As long as you
Yeah.
know where to go when you need it. So let me read this comment by Angela. So Angela said there are stages in the grieving process. If any process is delayed, meaning if you grieve more than a year on anything, it's considered in nursing complicated grief. Okay, so with that being said, let's get to some of these types of grief and loss. So it says people may grieve over the death of a loved one. Grief can be particularly severe following the death of an infant or child or a suicide, divorce or separation. Of course, yeah, you guys can grieve the loss of your marriage, the loss of a pet, giving up something that mattered, work changes, for example, unemployment, retirement, or retrenchment. No, haven't heard that word, retrenchment. The diagnosis of a terminal illness, the loss of good health because of illness, accident, or disability, miscarriage or infertility, having a child with a disability, a terminal illness, or a mental illness or substance abuse problem, moving away or separation from family or friends, having an empty nest when children leave home. Um, so It states everybody reacts to grief differently. Common feelings include sadness, shock, denial, numbness, a sense of unreality, anger, guilt, blame, and relief. Um, so now we're going to go with what Angela said. We're going to go over the stages of grief, the 5 stages of grief. I'm just going to run them down and then we'll talk about them a little bit in depth. So, the 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Okay. So, in denial, the first stage of grief, denial is the first of the 5 stages of grief. It helps us to survive the loss. In this stage, the world becomes meaningless and overwhelming. Life makes no sense. We are in a state of shock and denial. Denial and shock help us to cope and make survival possible. Denial helps us to place our feelings of grief. There is a grace in denial. It's nature's way of letting in only as much as we can handle. As you accept the reality of the loss and start to ask yourself questions, you are unknowingly beginning the healing process. You are becoming stronger, and the denial is beginning to fade. But as you proceed, all the feelings you were denying begin to surface. Has anyone ever experienced that?
I all of them for me. Everyone. That's me. You just described me in every one of them.
Yeah. But at least, if you see yourself in those, at least you've processed and gone through those stages. But that very first one, I can imagine, especially, because you've experienced the death of a child, or the death of your parents. Gold Digger says that she
Yes,
has experienced that as well.
because my
So,
son and my mom was like 2 years apart.
in both
So
sides.
yeah, and what I do, y'all probably gonna think I'm crazy, but that's okay. How I try to make it through each day, I just keep saying my son is at school. My mom's still in the hospital. And that's how I try to deal with it. Because if I just let it just come and just say every day, they gone, I'm not gonna ever see them again. This is it. But your mind, you already know this. But that's how I had to try to deal with it by saying they somewhere else.
So Babs, you still do this? This still is
Yep,
your coping mechanism?
yep.
Wow.
And like I said, when we on the other one, I'll get into it more deeper with you, and then
Hmm.
you'll understand why, especially when it comes to my son,
Yeah.
because both of them, it shouldn't have happened. With my mom, she was given the wrong medicine in the hospital, and she never came back home again.
Wow. Look, no lawsuit.
Oh yeah, definitely a lawsuit, and not only from me, she had did 8 families like this.
Oh, who was giving your
The
mother the
nurse,
wrong medication?
the
Oh, wow.
RN.
Was this purposely done? Because
Yep,
I mean,
it was.
love nurses. I love nurses. My mother's a nurse, and look,
It
I was saying
was.
my daughter's going to be a nurse. Angela's a nurse, and her daughter just graduated from nursing school last Friday as well. But you watch some of these shows, and there are some wild people out here. There's
I
some.
could make a lifetime movie with what I went through.
How does somebody get to do that 8 times without
And
being
look,
fired?
I was in we was in the IC waiting room, me and my husband, right? And I had been seeing this other family there. I didn't know what was going on, with them. You know how you just see each other because you're there all the time in passing.
Yeah.
And so it just ended up we was all sitting by each other, and me and my husband, we was talking about what happened to my mom with each other. And
Mhm.
then they was like, that's the same thing that just happened to my father. And then we all looked at each other. We said her name all at the same time. Same nurse, everything. And
Wow.
then the other families came in and we found out they had that same nurse. The last time I seen her at the hospital, she was running down the hallway. I was running behind her trying to catch her because I knew she did this to my mom, you know. And she left. She didn't give no report. She didn't do nothing. She just left because she knew she was caught. But at this time, I didn't know about all the rest of the family she had did like this, you know, until we all just started communicating with each other in the IC waiting room. That's how we found out. And so then, you know, me, I'm immediately taking action, you know. And then through my attorneys and everything, I found out it was 8 families that they knew of at that time. But it could have been a lot more that they didn't catch. But they still was supposed to be investigating. But she did go to prison.
Wow. What was it? Was there justice for your mother, or just because this lady had done so much, she was going to prison?
Oh yeah, the hospital, and I got dressed and everything from the hospital and told me I better not get sick because accidents happen every day. And my attorney's number sitting right there, and I had it on speaker and heard the whole conversation. I sued the hospital, I sued the doctor, I sued her butt. It's so many lawsuits in there. And people think them lawsuits go fast. They don't go fast, especially when it's the hospitals and doctors. They try to play that out as long as they can, hoping that you're going to give up. And then they wanted me to sign a paper saying that I would never speak of it. I said, I'm not. I'm not going to never sign that. We're going to court. I said, I'm not going to sign it because I said, I'm going to scream this from the rooftop. Everybody needs to know about this. And
Wow.
I refused to sign it. And they said, well, we're going to make it take longer. And looked at my attorney. I said, I don't care how long it takes. I'm not giving in to them. I said, I'm going to write it out. I said, because it's not about the money to me. I said, it's the principle and the justice of this to me. You know, I said, I'm not giving in. And my
Absolutely.
attorneys them knew I wasn't going to give in. At the
Yeah, that was
hospital, them and
murder.
the doctors them thought I was, but they seen I wasn't giving in because I don't care about the money. Because to me, that's like blood money to me, you know. So
Right.
no, mm-mm.
Well, you definitely have to protect yourself in all situations. I remember telling you guys, with my dad, the only reason we won our case is because my dad happened to be there. The woman he was cheating on my stepmom with, happened to be a nurse as well, and knew what was supposed to be happening, and basically could advocate for us and was there as a witness that they weren't listening. And so that's how we won our lawsuit against the VA hospital here in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, I don't know about yours, Candy. I wasn't on it, so I didn't never hear, what happened with your father.
Well, yeah,
So
he went in complaining of chest pains, and of course, when you go, say that you have chest pains, you're into the emergency room. They're supposed to give you priority and look after you. And basically, they just put him in a room and just did not come to check on him at all.
Wow.
wow.
Even after them complaining, and the lady he was with, and they just were taking their time. And he ended up having a full blown heart attack, you know, after just being
hmm
placed in a room. And so, yeah, we won that
When
lot.
when we get into members only, I'm going to break it down to y'all what happened with this nurse in the hospital and the doctor,
Wow.
which was not my mom's doctor. This was I don't even know where she even came from, but I break it all down to you in there, you know. And like
Okay.
I said, it's a lifetime movie.
Wow. Okay. So,
Candace, in your case, the whistleblower at the VA hospital, did she keep her job?
well, she wasn't there in the capacity as a nurse. So she wasn't there as a nursing staff. She was there. My dad was cheat. Look, y'all gonna make me call out my old daddy. Look, she was cheating with my daddy, and she just happened to be a nurse. So when he went to
It ain't funny, but it's
yeah,
funny.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a funny guy. But yeah, so she wasn't there nursing staff or anything like that. So she was purely there with my dad as his support going into the emergency room because he was complaining of chest pains. So she wasn't a whistleblower per se at their facility. She was there with my dad personally.
Got you.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say your father was a Rolling Stone?
He was a Rolling Stone, but without a whole bunch of extra kids. And look, this is what. So is this what it's called? Angela moaned immediately. Morphine, oxygen, aspirin, nitroglycerin. So this is what if someone comes in complaining of chest pains, you're supposed to administer to them because that if they're telling you that they're having chest pains and signs of a heart attack that could have saved my dad, and they didn't provide any of this to him. So yeah, it was a big deal. I mean, I had lawyers coming flying back and forth to Alaska to talk to me and all kind of stuff. Yeah. But yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
And it makes you angry when something like that happens, because it's just like they just don't care. But
Yeah,
with this nurse, she didn't care because
yeah.
if she did, what you call that? I forget the word that they call her. You know how, but in her case, she didn't do that. You know how they make somebody sick and then they want to save them like they the hero. She was just doing stuff and just letting you die though.
Wow.
What you
Just
call? Y'all know that word? What is that word? That they call them where they make a person sick and then
Munch,
be the
Munchausen
yeah,
syndrome.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh
But
huh.
they couldn't completely call her that because she didn't never come back to save them. She just let them die.
Wow.
So, in other words, she was just murdering people.
That's just wild.
Oh, I
Exactly.
can't use
That
that
was
word on
murder.
here. I'm sorry, Candy.
Oh, oops. Unalive. She was
Unalive.
Yeah.
unaliving people.
Unalive.
hmm
Let's get our.
I've let that come out too quick. That's why I said I'm sorry if I said it.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
but
So let's go
yeah,
to
that's what she was
our
doing.
phase of the grieving process, which is anger. So it states anger is a necessary stage of the healing process. Be willing to feel your anger, even though it may seem endless. The more you truly feel it, the more it will begin to dissipate and the more you will heal. There are many other emotions under the anger, and you will get to them in time. But anger is the emotion we are most used to managing. The truth is that anger has no limits. It can extend not only to your friends, the doctors, your family, yourself, and your loved one who died, but also to God. You may
Can I
ask,
speak on that right quick, Candy, before you go on with the anger part? I
go
was
ahead.
angry. I was angry at God. I blamed God because I was like, how could you let my son be gone? How could you let this happen to my mom? And that's where my anger went at that time. So yeah, that is really true. I had a lot of anger and I still have anger for real. I just don't, well, I do know who to put the anger towards in my mom and my son's case.
Yeah. So it states, you may ask, where is God in this? Underneath anger is pain, your pain. It is natural to feel deserted and abandoned, but we live in a society that fears anger. Anger is strength and it can be an anchor, giving temporary structure to the nothingness of loss. At first, grief feels like being lost at sea, no connection to anything. Then you get angry at someone, maybe a person who didn't attend the funeral, maybe a person who isn't around, maybe a person who is different now that your loved one has died. Suddenly you have a structure, your anger towards them. The anger becomes a bridge over the open sea, a connection from you to them. It is something to hold on to, and a connection made from the strength of anger feels better than nothing. We usually know more about suppressing anger than feeling it. The anger is just another indication of the intensity of your love. So yeah, and as
That
you
is
said,
absolutely true. So, so true.
thank you so much, Gold Digger. Yeah, I would earlier, you guys. I was just expressing, because even in the other shows, I've said, that I, was raised in Alaska with my mom, and my stepdad for the most part. But the anger that I felt or the grief that I felt with my dad is because we didn't have the relationship, the father daughter relationship that I would have liked to have had. And so I grieve that we didn't get a chance to make it better. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what I grieved, um,
I
when
wish you could have got that closure because it does make a difference because I went through that And I
Mhm.
did get that closure. Thank God for that, you know,
Yeah,
because
and
that would have just been something else added on to me, you know.
yeah, I was angry at him, if that makes sense. My
Yeah,
anger,
it makes a lot of sense.
I wasn't necessarily angry at, oh, the hospital or anything like that. I was angry at him for basically like wasting all that time. You know what I'm saying? Wasting all that
Hmm.
time.
This
So,
gonna sound mean, but when I lost my father, it didn't really bother me like that. You know, you wasn't my mom. That's a whole different ball game right there. But with him, because of the things that we went through with him, I was like, okay, it's sad. Am I gonna cry? No, I'm not gonna cry. Which I'll get into that with y'all later too.
okay.
And then you'll understand why I felt the way I did.
Tamika, have you ever lost a loved one?
Yeah, my grandfather. But I mean, from grieving, I don't know. I still grieve because everything reminds you of that loss.
And how long ago did he pass? I know you stated that your grandfather raised you from an infant.
Yeah, so he passed away in 2020,
Oh, not too.
2021.
It wasn't COVID related, was it? I hope you're
Yeah, it
not.
was. It
It was.
was.
Oh, I know when you said 2020, it just immediately came to my mind that that's when, COVID had
That's
came.
what I was thinking also. How do
Yeah.
you deal with your grieving?
Um, I don't know. I don't think I never tapped into it, honestly speaking.
And
And you see how everybody got a different opinion of how you deal with it or you don't. So I don't think it's just any solid answer for anybody because everybody do it in a different way.
yeah, grief is dealing with grief is going to look different for everyone. I think it's going to be it's going to be based on your life experiences and how you've been raised and how you've been basically taught to manage anger and deal with things like that. It looks different for everyone
I was
because
told I cry too much about it. I need to let it go. Don't tell me I need to let something go. That's my son. That's the only child I had. You just be surprised at what come out of people's mouth, you know.
I
Or
don't like when people try to tell people how long they should grieve.
yeah, and then they haven't lost a child. Number one, you know. So until you walk in my shoes, don't tell me. Even if you did, you still can't tell me how to grieve. You know, that's my child. You know, but in it, I don't want y'all to take this the wrong way. But like people want to tell you, well, they in a better place. They with God. No, the better place to me is right here next to my side, right here.
Yeah, that's
And
no
you can't
consolation.
tell me they with God because um we don't know where they at yet. We have not came to that part yet to say whether we going to heaven or hell at all. So don't tell me they with God
right.
because they not.
And Angela, sorry for the loss of your grandmother. You know what? At 9 years old, for you at that time, that was probably traumatic to see. I don't know if it was your mom or dad's mother, but to see your parent grieving the loss of their mother, that that was traumatic at that time for you. And what I wanted to
Hmm.
also ask you, Tamika, is when you state that your grandfather passed, and it was COVID related, so many things were going on during that time. You weren't able to even be with your loved ones, and did you have to experience any of that on top of the loss? Were you able to be
Yeah,
with them?
yeah. So, all his kids, like, they don't have their mind frame right. So basically, it had to be me that, well, me and my mom, we had to be the ones that basically plan a funeral and everything else. But by no, but back then, you only was supposed to have like 10 people. Remind you, he have 9
Yeah,
kids.
Okay.
So with his 9 kids plus all of the grandkids, like we had to basically like yeah, I don't know. Like that was the worst planning of my like entire life. Not only that, I had to do like his like obituary because no one in my family graduated from college but me, so they're very illiterate. Um, so it was just a lot. So it
They
was like,
relied on you. They relied on you.
Did they allow you into the hospital though? Because some people couldn't even go to the
yeah.
hospital where they was at.
Yeah, so with that, it was only the people that was, on his paperwork, and that was only me, my mom, and my uncle. So it was only us three, but we couldn't go all together. We had to do one at a time, and that was just to like, see his body for the last time.
Mhm.
So it was a lot because we couldn't have a big funeral, even during like the little grieving, well, the burial. We couldn't have a big burial ceremony. It was like it was a different experience. I can say that
Yeah,
it was a different
yeah.
Mhm.
experience.
For a
When
lot of
my cousin, she
loved
passed away, she was a sweet 16, and they live in LA, right? And her mother and them, they had it outside. They had to have a tent, but still had to separate it. But more can come because they did it outside there. I didn't even know that they would do anything like that, but they did for her funeral.
Oh wow. So let's catch up with Angela here. So Angela is stating that, the only loss that she's really experienced is her grandmother, which is her mom's mother. And she stated it changed and this was when she was 9 years old. So listen to what she expounds on. She said it changed our entire life. My mom was the only child. She went into a severe depression. She lost massive weight and she got on drugs badly. And I can imagine that if you're an only child and you lose your parent, that's traumatic,
Yes, it is.
very traumatic. And especially depending on the all the dynamics of the family. Okay, was she just raised by her mother? Was grandfather there? Was grandfather not there? You know, you know, being another major person to lean on. That could be, yeah, I can imagine that being very traumatic. And as a result, being extra traumatic for you as a 9-year-old child, having to witness your mom's decline like that. And I definitely hope she came through that.
Yeah.
Goodness.
How
It
how's
doesn't,
your mom doing now?
Angela states, my mother left me and my brother home by ourselves. I was 9 and he was 6. So at 9 years old, you had to be a mother figure to a younger
Hmm.
sibling to this.
Wow.
And that's
How's
as a result of
how's your mom doing now?
okay. So Angela says the neighbors banded together and took care of them. And Babs is asking, how's your mother now? Hopefully she came through everything, which can be tough.
Hmm.
So now we'll
That's
go
a
to,
lot for a 9-year-old.
oh
That's
yeah.
a lot.
So we'll go to the next stage, which is bargaining. Before a loss, it seems like you will do anything if only your loved one would be spared. Please God, you bargain. I will never be angry at my wife again if you'll just let her live. After a loss, bargaining may take the form of a temporary truce. What if I devote the rest of my life to helping over others? Then I can wake up and realize this has all been a bad dream. We become lost in a maze of if only or what if statements. We want life returned to what it was. We want our loved one restored. We want to go back in time, find the tumor sooner, recognize the illness more quickly, stop the accident from happening. If only, if only, if only. Guilt is often bar- Guilt is often bargaining's companion. The if onlys cause us to find fault in ourselves and what we think we could have done differently. We may even bargain with the pain. We will do anything not to feel the pain of the loss. We remain in the past, trying to negotiate our way out of the hurt. People often think of the stages as lasting weeks or months. They forget that the stages are responses to feelings that can last for minutes or hours as we flip in and out of one and then another. We do not enter and leave each individual stage in a linear fashion. We may feel one, then another, and back to the first one. So, okay, so let's see what we have here. So, Okay, Angela says she has been off drugs for some years now. And Gold Digger chimes in and says, I've experienced loss most of my life. At 11 years old, my brother drowned. From that point forward, I've lost my father, another brother, two grandmothers, two grandfathers, two uncles, three aunties, and two cousins. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry
Wow,
to
that's a
hear that.
lot.
I'm so
Mhm.
sorry for that.
That's a lot of family to lose. And Angela goes on to say she got off drugs in 2013. Your mother. Good for your mother. And
Yeah, thank God.
Digger.
Do y'all have a close relationship now, Angela? She need to come up here on the panel and talk. I would love to hear, what she have to say.
Angela hops on sometimes. Late night. Like, it's not late at night, but look, I'm gonna put the chat in link in here again in case you feel like it. But yes, okay.
And I'm gonna be quiet because I've been talking too much. But everything that you saying is what I'm going through right now.
Yeah, well, Angela says, yes, I've always loved my mom. So her and her mother do have a close relationship. And Gold Digger goes on to say, Angela, so sorry for your loss. So glad your mom is drug free. And once again, in case anybody in here that missed it, I was prompted to do this show tonight because Babs, you guys, tonight, she reached out to me, and in the span of about 15 minutes, she got information that she has lost two relatives today. So, I definitely wanted to, send some support her way. And then also, Deborah Briscoe over in the Banger Hitter family, once again, she stated that she lost her mother last Friday. So I just felt like, a lot of people are really going through things right now. So let's talk about this. So the next stage is depression. After bargaining, our attention moves squarely into the present. Empty feelings, empty feelings present themselves, and grief enters our lives on a deeper level, deeper than we ever imagined. This depressive stage feels as though it will last forever. It's important to understand that this depression is not a sign of mental illness. It is the appropriate response to a great loss. We withdraw from life, left in a fog of intense sadness, wondering, perhaps, if there is any point on going on alone. Why go on at all? Depression after a loss is too often seen as unnatural, a state to be fixed, something to snap out of. The first question to ask yourself is whether or not the situation you're in is actually depressing. The loss of a loved one is a very depressing situation, and depression is a normal and appropriate response. To not experience depression after a loved one dies would be unusual. When a loss fully settles in your soul, the realization that your loved one didn't get better this time and is not coming back is understandably depressing. If grief is a process of healing, then depression is one of the many necessary steps along the way. Anyone have any thoughts on that or been through that? And I definitely hope you're feeling so much better. Dealing Inspired Vibe is here with us tonight and has expressed that um, first she lost her mother and then she lost her father this past June. So that's, and I can definitely, look, I'm so glad my little old lady is still around here and kicking, wreaking havoc everywhere she goes.
Same.
I
That's
tell
I'm
a
an
you,
only child. I
blessing.
couldn't imagine losing my mom.
my
I'm my
mom
mom's only
is
child.
oh my goodness. Yes, yeah. My mom is a spitfire, I tell you. But man, the thought of her not being around, talking her mess or popping her ish, like Miss Fit would say, I
Yeah.
I would do
Don't
it.
even think about it because just thinking about it will make you be ready to jump overboard, you
Look,
know?
I can't even think. I can't even imagine it. Like my mom just turned 74 November the 22nd, and I can't even imagine her not being here. Like I can't. So yeah.
My mom's birthday was November the 2nd.
Oh wow, okay. So
Hmm.
Gold Digger says,
Candy, our moms are the same age.
are they?
Yeah.
Yep. So Gold Digger said drugs and alcohol played a huge part in my father's demise. His life gone too soon as a result of vices that caused him to become a dialysis patient for 7 years, and it all finally came to an end. Oh, that has to be horrible to know what's going on and that it could have
Hmm.
stopped, but just due to, just like you said, Gold Digger, vices and things that we
And
all.
dialysis is hard on the body, real hard. Going to dialysis. So my mom ended up had to go through it towards the end, and
Mhm.
it was painful to her.
Okay. Inspired said she lost both her parents to cancer. My dad passed on hospice in June. I'm grieving. I needed this live. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm so glad we could be here for you. I'm so happy we could be here for you.
Yeah, it's a lot of people going through this too. You
Yeah.
know, you'd be surprised at how many people is going through this.
Okay. Angela said, my mom is a beautiful woman with a heart of gold. I tell her that I appreciate the time you gave me with you. I will always be thankful for her. Absolutely. Me as well.
Yeah, and that's great that she feel like that because you hear a lot of kids, when they was kids and went through that where they hate their mothers, but that's an addiction. So I'm glad she had it in her heart to forgive her mom.
Right. Because a lot of
Absolutely.
times, especially if your mom kind of veered down the path of drugs at 9 years old, that can
Hmm.
leave a lot um and not getting clean until 2013. You were an adult by then. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of things that you didn't deserve to see as a 9-year-old child and your little brother and things of that nature. But I'm so glad you guys have forgiveness and communication still. And, because many people go through things like that. And when they decide to get themselves together, they don't have their children anymore, or they have very
Right,
resentful children that don't understand that they're human too and have gone through things, and just, life was lifing at that time. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
sometimes, even though you may say, well, oh, I would never do this or that, some people aren't strong in those regards, to turn away drugs and things like that. So I'm glad you guys still maintain a good relationship, Angela. I really am. Okay.
Angela, did you discuss with your mother how it made you feel when you was 9 when she just left like that? Did y'all have that discussion? And did she apologize to you all?
And you know what? And shout out to your community. From what you said, shout out to your community for stepping in. Because you know what?
Yes, that's the big
I'm
part.
huge.
Yeah,
That's huge. That is huge. And that goes to show you a lot of, as far as communities back then as opposed to communities now. I'll be honest and tell you, y'all, my neighbors on each side of me, I don't even know their name. Well, I think I know one guy's name. But you know what? Telling you that it's not how it used to be. It is not how it used to be where neighbors, you know, knew each other. So, like in your
I'm
situation,
friendly. I know my neighbors. I know two neighbors down on the left and two neighbors down on the right. And we like three of us, we all got kids the same age, so they catch the bus together, you know what I mean? So we're a
that's
solid
good.
little team.
That is good. Look, and this is probably my fault, but when my kids were little, for instance, right? My neighbors got on my nerves. And let me tell you why they got on my nerves. Look, this we're diverting from the conversation, but I have to say this. I'm very friendly, but I noticed early on, like literally, um, I have been on my own since I was 18 years old. Not because anything happened. I just, when you feeling grown, you gotta be independent, move out, get your own place, woo woo woo. But I noticed early on that if you were too nice to some neighbors, they start bothering you all the time. Like, I don't want you knocking on my door for cups of sugar and can I borrow this and that. So I just learned very early on after a couple experiences just to keep it like high and by, hey, as we're passing. And I just kind of have been like that because every time I let my walls down and talk a little too much, like people really just kind of naturally like talking to me. They just kind of do. I don't know why. And then I just open myself up to more than I even wanted. And I'm just like, oh my God, y'all knocking on my door for this, you knocking on my door for that. Then when I had kids, sometimes the kids would be playing, but then it got to be, oh, can my kids come down? No, I got my own kids. I don't want your kids and my kids over here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Candy. That's how I am with my neighbors also. I just be like high and by. That's it.
Yeah, if I had neighbors that were like me, we'd be super cool because we'd all know the boundaries. But some people don't know
Right.
you know. Oh, what y'all kicking? Not nothing for you. It's just like, oh my God. So, anyways, that's how.
Yeah.
Shout out to the community that raised you. Hey, Fuse. Hey, that's
Look, Riley at one of the neighbors' house right now. She's spending the night.
that's right, Fuse. More give them an inch, they want a mile, and they never want to go away. And then it's like all of a sudden, oh, can I have a ride here? Ride? It's like no. So, anyways, I digress. But
And it's sad to say nowadays, people who have younger kids, little kids, I
mhm,
would never ever let my child go spend the night over no friend's house because you don't know what's going on in these daddy's minds or the mama's minds. No more child over there and they molesting them and everything else now.
look, I'll
It's
be asking my
scary.
girls, oh, do they have brothers over there? Oh, they have a big brother? No. That's how I used to be. My kids
Hmm.
just asked me, y'all don't have
Yeah, I don't do sleepovers at all. I don't care if there's a
no
cousin
visit.
or aunt. They
You
don't do that.
home. Yeah, that's how I feel. You go, you can visit, and then you coming home. You visit
Uh,
for a little, you bring your ass
The house that Riley's at is she a single mom and she and her daughter is the only child too. So they was either gonna be down there or they was gonna be here, and I'd rather them be down there because I knew I was going live. I ain't had time for that.
home. Oh
I get that.
Okay, so let's move to this last stage, you guys. The last stage of the grieving process, which is acceptance. Acceptance is often confused with the notion of being all right or okay with what has happened. This is not the case. Most people don't ever feel okay or all right about the loss of a loved one. This stage is about accepting the reality that our loved one is physically gone and recognizing that this new reality is the permanent reality. We will never like this reality or make it okay, but eventually we accept it. We learn to live with it. It is the new norm with which we must learn to live. We must try to live now in a world where our loved one is missing. In resisting this new norm, at first, many people want to maintain life as it was before a loved one died. In time, though, bits and pieces of acceptance, however, we see that we cannot maintain the past intact. It has been forever changed and we must readjust. We must learn to reorganize roles, reassign them to others, or take them on ourselves. Finding acceptance may just be having more good days than bad ones. As we begin to live again and enjoy our life, we often feel that in doing so, we are betraying our loved one. We can never replace what has been lost, but we can make new connections, new meaningful relationships, new interdependencies. Instead of denying our feelings, we listen to our needs, we move, we change, we grow, we evolve. We may start to reach out to others and become involved in their lives. We invest in our friendships and in our relationship with ourselves. We begin to live again, but we cannot do so until we have given grief its time. And those are the steps of grief, you guys. So keep it in mind, and I'm just going to run through them again. The first stage is denial, then anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. Because even though while it might not be you, you may encounter a friend or a family member, especially during this holiday season, and you never know what they could be going through. Because, as we stated, grief is not always a death. It can be, you can have a friend or a family member that's going through a sudden divorce and their relationship or marriage has just crumbled and they're devastated. That's grief, that's a loss. And just to, kind of know how to talk to them and be as helpful as you can. Okay.
I have a part of dealing with that I want to talk about. One of the things that was difficult um with losing my grandmother, my mom's mom, was that my grandma was the glue to the family. My grandma had six daughters and they fight like cats and dogs. I have three half siblings and we have better relationship than my mom and her sisters, and they grew up in the same house. But it's just like after grandma died, we stopped getting together as a family, and now it seems like the only time we all gather together is when somebody dies, and I don't like that.
Yeah, that's sad. Have you thought about trying to start some new family traditions to kind of circumvent that or pull people together, even if
I'm
it's
too
just the two of you
I'm
at a
too
time?
far away. I'm 700 miles away, and they're all in like the Maryland. But yeah, they're all my immediate family is in Maryland. They're
Okay.
700 miles away. So it's kind of hard. Plus, Riley keep me busy. It's kind of hard scheduling things around her busy schedule. So I wouldn't be the one. Look, tell me the date and I'll show up. But as far as trying to pull something together, it would be kind of difficult for me.
Okay. So look what Angela says. And this is just shows you how you can be in the same family and the same events turn you guys different ways. So Angela stated that it was her who was 9 and her brother who was 6. So Angela states, my brother went downhill behind it. He's been in jail most of his life.
Oh,
Same things that kind of spurned her to do good. Um, you know, he had must have had difficulty with. And we definitely can't deny being a 6-year-old and placed in that type of situation, you know, didn't have an
it's
effect on him.
it's traumatizing,
Yeah. Gold Digger
but
says, I
I
have to
don't I
admit,
don't have that end part, Candy. Acceptance, but it's not going to make sense to anybody until you know the whole story
oh,
behind.
and you know what? It doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you. As long as
Yeah.
you know what I mean? As long as it makes sense to you and you're able to live your life on a daily basis and function, you know, you're the only person it has to make sense to.
You got
So
me tears coming out my eyes because
it's okay. Take your time.
you the only person that ever said that. Because with everybody else, it's like I'm not supposed to talk about it at all, with the exception of my husband. But everybody else, like it's supposed to be a no zone. Don't talk about it.
Mhm.
You need to just get on with life. Quit talking about him. Quit talking about mom. You know,
That's not fair.
I'm sorry.
And not wanting to accept that explanation for people because yeah, none of you know what to say. You know what I mean? Like collectively, no one has anything to offer or to say to be helpful. So I mean, I definitely understand that, but I know that I know that sometimes people really don't know what to say in a hard
or they
situation.
just or they just lack empathy because there's no way, like sometimes you don't even have to say anything, just be a listening ear.
Listening ear and just be there. Like literally, if we just have to just sit there and just watch TV all day and not say a word to each other, but you just know I'm here, do something like that for someone. You know what I mean?
Right.
So Gold Digger says, I have to admit, I know the neighbors on both sides and across the street. We all take turns going over each other's houses from time to time. But we are senior citizens, so we look out for each other. And look, that's how it should be. Like, I better get me my dad, get my senior citizen friends ready. God dang it. The hell? Okay. So let's see. Inspired says, I lost my mom when I was 28. It will be 16 years next month. Thus, her death somewhat prepared me for my dad's passing. Still, being 44 with no parents or grandparents during the holidays is tough. Oh, I can imagine. Uh, this is personal, but so don't answer if you don't want to. Do you have children, Inspired? So yeah, but I can imagine that being tough. Especially even if you have kids, to not have it be a time, with no grandmother, things like that. Grandmas are important. Grandpas are too, but grandmas are, you know, very important. Okay, Inspired says she has a 23-year-old son. Yes. Okay. All right. So did anyone have anything else to add to grieving? Because I'm going to quickly, and this is just going to be a quick rundown, and then I want anybody to add anything on that they find helpful or they think is helpful. Um, so here is a list of things to not do. Okay, when you're helping someone grieve. Okay. This is advice for helping a grieving friend. These are the don'ts. One, don't be sensationalist about it. So it says, I've had conversations with people who seem to love bad news and enjoy being shocked. I don't think they know they do it, but you get the impression your pain is their gossip, some kind of bad news porn or something. Though, if you do enjoy that type of thing, you're probably not reading this now. Besides, with everything going on in the world today, I'm sure there are plenty of sites catering more for those tastes. Number two, don't tag grieving relatives in photos of the dead online. And that can be very triggering. You never know what stage of the process someone's in. So, yeah, refrain from doing that. And that's not to say you don't want to celebrate and remember a person who's passed, but just be mindful, especially if it's fresh. Okay? Don't only
But
focus.
what about them taking your son in his casket and posting it on Facebook?
Oh,
Yeah, that's disrespectful.
disrespectful.
Very
And that,
disrespectful.
that you would have hell to pay. Like we would definitely
Right.
be out if something like that. And you
And
know
that
what's
and that was a sister that did that to me.
that's awful. And people are so disrespectful and insensitive about things like that, to the point to where, like, literally, you basically have to put these things and let people know your wishes. Like, hey, I don't want any cameras there. I can
I
remember.
didn't even know that she had even took no picture, so I don't even know when she did it, you know.
You
And
just
it was my son's best friend that called me and told me because he like to pass out when he seen it. And I didn't even know because I wasn't even being on no computers or nothing at that time, right? And she had done that because this is like 3 days after my son's funeral when she did that.
And you know what, I tend to find that people who do things like that, it's more about attention for them personally than the person who they have lost.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, I still got a lot of anger. A lot of anger.
So number three is, don't only focus on the good. It states finding positives can be great. This will bring you closer together, make you stronger and the like, but don't Pollyanna the situation. So basically, you can treat a situation as it was. You don't have to, sugarcoat something. Four, similarly, don't put a positive spin on what they're saying. So, talking to a friend on a particularly tough day once, I gave up trying to keep things light when the situation wasn't. I told them the truth. If it was something bad, say it's bad. If it's awful, say, it's awful that that happened to you. So, number five, don't compare it to your experience unless it's really a fitting comparison. So, yeah, there's people that will try, oh, that just happened to me, or I did the same thing. I felt the same way. It's different for everyone. Even sometimes when you may think the situation is strangely similar, let that person's situation and grief be their own. You know, don't say anything to diminish it. It's number six. Seven, don't cross the street to avoid talking to them. Some people will, you will find that I've heard this a lot. Like I said, I've haven't had very many situations where I've had to deal with grief, but I have heard of people stating that they're avoiding certain people, or I've heard the person grieving say that they feel like people are avoiding them just so they don't have to talk about the loss or the loved one that is lost. Okay? Don't do that, you guys. Okay. Number eight, don't push your faith on them if they don't share it. So, if you know that you're both Christians and you rely on God and your faith heavily, that's fine. But if you really don't know that person and where they stand with religion, don't push yours on them. Okay. Number nine, don't comment on their appearance because once again, you never know where they are in that stage of grief. They could be in a depressive state where no, they're not keeping themselves up the way that they usually do. You may have someone that is used to getting dressed up every day and this and that, and they have a situation going on, and all they can do is make it in the shower, and that's it. You know, don't comment, oh, we're not used to seeing you looking like this, and things like that. Number 10, don't wait. So we're all busy, but don't wait to check on someone until you feel like they're possible. Oh, I was just waiting for time to pass. That person might need you now. So here's the do's. 11, just reach out. Number 12, then judge their reaction and see how they are. 13, find your own way to express your love. Number 14, listen. Number 15, acknowledge just how bad it really is. Number 16, offer to connect them to people going through something similar if you do know anyone. And of course, that's if they're receptive to that. Number 17, give little and often. Number 18, prepare for the worst. You never know, what their whole demeanor may be. Number 19, just do it. Number 20, be sensitive linguistically. So, kind of mind what you're saying. Okay, you guys, those are some tips to helping a grieving friend. Okay. Do you guys have
I
any?
had a yeah, I had a neighbor during the time when my son passed away, right?
Mhm,
Really nice lady. And she had a daughter, and Helen had walked over here to my driveway because she hadn't really been up on me, since I had lost my son. And she gave me her condolences. That's what she said. She didn't know what to say to me. I tell her, well, that's understandable. I say sometimes people just need to listen, you know. But anyway, we were talking because everybody knew how I was about my son.
mhm,
And I told her some days I just don't want to go home. I said, if it wasn't for my mom being here, I said, I probably wouldn't be standing here right now. But her daughter had walked up, and these were snow bunnies. And she said, her daughter said, well, God wouldn't be happy with you saying that. You should never say that again. I told her, I said, lady, I said, you need to not even talk to me right now. I said, because you're really putting your life in danger standing here trying to tell me what I should and should not do when it comes to me losing my son. But anyway, long story short, like 2 weeks after that, right? She found out that her only son, she got a daughter too. Her son was like 32, and they found out he had cancer. And she was like, "Well, he never smoked. He never did none of that. But you don't have to smoke to get cancer." But
mhm,
anyway, they found out he had cancer, and then like the following next week, he was gone. That's how fast he died from the cancer, you know. And so she had to come back to me and told me she wanted to apologize to me because she had said, I don't want to live no more. I said, no. I said, didn't you tell me God wouldn't be pleased with me saying this? And I said, now you saying it? And so she apologized to me for that. And she said, now I see how you feeling. And see, that's what I say. People shouldn't speak up on nothing unless you don't walk in my shoes, you know. She had to eat all them words back, and I hated that she had to go through it because I wouldn't wish that on no one, you know. But everything that I was saying was coming out of her mouth now because she done lost her son, you know. But she didn't have no sympathy for me when it was me, you know. But
Mhm.
then it got turned around, and I say, see, karma is a bitch sometimes, you know. You got to be careful of the words that you use when it comes to things like this, because God might just did that to show her. You need to watch your mouth when you talking to somebody, you know. But I bet she'll never say that to another person again.
Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. So Gold Digger says, yes, my brother has struggled most of his life with jail and drugs as a result of my father's drug and alcohol use, and then passing away. Our brother drowning, divorce of our parents, and our baby brother passing. Oh man, I feel so bad. Families are going through it.
Yes.
Really going through it.
I don't get to the point you all. You remember R. Kelly trapped in the closet?
Hmm.
And he said, I ain't gonna open not no damn doors no more. I said, I ain't gonna answer my phone no damn more today. You know, I said, I'm not even gonna answer my phone no more. Every time I answer the phone, it's bad news. I said, so I feel like R. Kelly about opening up the doors. That's how I feel about my phone now. I don't even want to answer. When I look and see it's one of my family members calling me from out of town, I just sat there and I look at the phone and I was like, oh my God, should I answer this or should I not? And I actually did that today. And I answered it. It was bad news. And then 15 minutes later, my phone rang again. And I said, oh, this is probably my cousin calling to tell me about my other cousin, you know. Nope. She was calling to tell me another cousin was gone, which was her little brother. He was only 23. And he just fell out in the floor. And they called paramedics and they got to the hospital. Said he had a heart attack. He was only 23. He worked out, played basketball all the time. I mean, didn't do drugs or nothing and had a heart attack.
And once again, so sorry for your family's loss.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else with any good, great words of encouragement for someone who is grieving? And after this, you guys tell me, should we lighten the mood? But if we do that, I am going to end this recording because I want this really to be very specific with this recording for anyone that needs it. I don't want no shenanigans on this recording.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to lighten the mood and get to some happy times.
Yes, let's do it. Okay, you guys. So I'm going to end this recording. Hang tight because we're going to be right here. Okay, hold
Wait a
tight.
minute. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to answer for everybody what everybody else want to do. I'm willing to do.
I agree with you guys
Yeah, we
about
don't.
Yeah,
lighting the
I
mood.
agree also.
Yeah, I mean, this was a necessary conversation, but very somber. We're sending prayers out to. I'm definitely sending prayers out to you, Babs. I'm sending prayers out for Deborah Briscoe and the loss of her mother last Friday, and anyone else who's going through anything and needs it. Okay, so prayers sent. All
I
right,
appreciate it. And I really, really need y'all to pray for me hard.
prayers
This is
sent.
the holidays too. I have a
Yeah,
hard time with holidays, as it is, you know.
yeah. Well, you got it. No need to ask. Okay, you guys, hold tight.